What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Green Day's 21st Century Breakdown. Now, this is part of our continued Green Day coverage, in which I am reviewing every single album that I have done since their very first, all the way up to right now, 21st Century Breakdown. So after this video and after this album, we got three more in Uno, Dos, and Tre. Before we got to Revolution Radio, which I've already done a review for when that album first came out. This is obviously, hopefully, leading up to Green Day releasing their new album, eventually finding singles, maybe by the time this video is already out, I've already kind of jinxed myself or gotten lucky and they have released new songs or anything about their album. That would be pretty cool. But we're going to be talking all about 21st Century Breakdown in this video. We're going to be talking about the themes, how I think about the overall album, just in general, just the sounds and how I feel. And then we're going to go into every single song. We won't spend that much time on every single song because this is a big album. And even to Green Day back in that day, this was an album that I think a lot of people were very, very stoked for, obviously coming right off of American Idiot, and right off of sounds a little bit too close together because this album came out much, much later. It came out 5 years after American Idiot, and even the writing process of the songs, even Billy Joe Armstrong writing the songs for this album, came 2 years after they had done American Idiot and after they had spent 2005 touring. So, this came after a long time. They didn't even start working on it until 2008. So this was a return to Green Day at a time that they had technically been gone for a long time, but they were coming off of the success of American Idiot, and really American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown I still think can carry them for many years to come, even if they produce just complete failures afterwards, which you could argue Uno, Dos, and Tre were. Revolution Radio started, I think, a comeback, and we'll see what happens with their next album. But 21st Century Breakdown did take a hit, okay? Nothing could be as special and as memorable and as, I think, personal to a lot of people as American Idiot. And we talked about it in last week's review. I think American Idiot is the greatest album Green Day has ever made. However, I'll say that 21st Century Breakdown is right up there, right behind it. Maybe it's not second. I do love Nimrod. I do love Dookie. I feel like those three, Nimrod, Dookie, and 21st Century Breakdown, fight for that second spot to me. And a lot of times 21st Century Breakdown wins. And I don't necessarily know why. I guess I do. I feel like this album is very clean and it's very concise and it doesn't stop. Okay, I feel like there's not a lot of drops in this album. There are times where it speeds up. There's times where it slows down. There's piano parts. There's songs that rely more on his vocals. There's time that it relies more on the instruments. It takes us on quite the ride. It tells quite the story of Christian and Gloria in three different acts, basically after the Bush era. And I don't necessarily prefer the story of this over American Idiot. I prefer the characters of Christian and Gloria, and I feel like they're easier to follow and they're just more recognizable. Maybe it's because of the music videos, honestly, but their characters I can visualize more than St. Jimmy in American Idiot. That's just my opinion. And in terms of what this album actually was, it was starting to get a little bit more political. Again, was talking about the post-Bush era, and even a couple of outlets back then had written this is where you start to see Billy Joe Armstrong take some jabs at right-wingers, just in general, and kind of simplify what they kind of stand for and take jabs at that. Not necessarily always right. And to be honest, you really start to see that more and more in terms of his live shows, in terms of Billy Joe Armstrong as a person, even over these last 3-4 years. It is the main reason I'm honestly worried about this newest album, of what it's going to sound like, of are they going to just come full out against anti-Trump, and anybody who supports Trump, they're not welcome to listen to Green Day, because it honestly seems like they're one tick away from doing that. We'll talk about that, and I want to talk about that in future videos, especially when they start talking about their new album. I think those are some really good discussion things. But I guess if you don't know that, if you don't know necessarily the meaning of 21st Century Breakdown and some of the songs, and some of the songs are very personal to Billy Joe Armstrong as well, it doesn't come off as overly political. It really doesn't. And it is meant to be a rock opera, like the second part rock opera after American Idiot, and I think it does it generally well. I really do enjoy a lot of the songs on this. The album in general really starts to take it in a different direction. This, in my opinion, is a really big jump vocally. I think he does a fantastic job singing all of these songs. I really do love the vocals in this. And after this, even Uno, Dos, Tre, and Revolution Radio, I think all are sung masterfully by him. I truly believe that. I think it starts at 21st Century Breakdown. And American Idiot, and I've talked about it in that video too. American Idiot, you see a lot of growth, and I think his singing is really, really good. Even Warning and Nimrod, he takes some really big steps to be a much better singer than what he was back then. I think you really see that echoed in 21st Century Breakdown. The instruments, just the general sound of this album, does take it, I feel like, into the 21st century. American Idiot did a lot of different things musically and instrumentally, with literally with the guitar, with the bass, with the drums, just how the vocals all worked, with how him and Mike Dirnt sang together. It did a lot of things really, really well, and I think it established kind of what they were going to sound like in the future. And then 21st Century Breakdown took that and kept going, because this is really the sound. And I remember listening to it. I remember listening to Know Your Enemy. It was the first single off this, and this was the first album that I listened to in the moment, because if you watch the review of American Idiot, I started listening to Green Day around 2006. So I listened to them after American Idiot, but I had that album. My dad had it. My dad had Dookie. I listened to some of their older stuff. But, I wasn't there when American Idiot released, so I wasn't there, I didn't listen to it as it was released and could hear it, like, in the moment. I feel like listening to an album in the moment and being there in that moment, you get a different feel, or like, literally your experience with it. I feel like that increases the emotion, and I feel like most times, I feel like it pushes it towards you're going to over-like the album, you're going to like it more than you may later on. I feel like it's kind of that case with movies, too. If you see a movie, say, like Avengers Endgame Night 1, I feel like you're going to like that movie more than maybe you would have if you saw it 3 weeks later, if you just see it on your TV, just because of all the stuff that goes around the album, not even just the album itself. And 21st Century Breakdown was that first album for me, and subsequently, all the albums after that have been that. But 21st Century Breakdown, to me, is a really solid album from start to finish. Like I said, I really don't feel like there's a lot of drops in it. Is it necessarily up to American Idiot? No, that's why I would say American Idiot is better. I don't think, like I said with American Idiot, I feel like Extraordinary Girl is the only song that sticks out there as being weaker quality-wise than all the other songs. I don't feel like there's a drop in quality in those other songs. When it comes to this 21st Century Breakdown, it's much the same. It's just I don't think the bar is as high. I don't feel like there's songs on here. There are a lot of amazing songs on here. I do believe that. But I don't know if the songs on here reach the same level as the best songs on American Idiot. So I feel like overall the quality bar immediately starts lower. Now again, do a lot of the songs drop that bar massively? And is there a lot of jumps between high quality and low quality songs on this album? No. I think it holds the bar up pretty darn high, and it constantly sticks there. I just don't think it's as high as American Idiot. But overall, I really do love this album. I really do think it's something that's hard to like say why. I do feel like the overall music, literally the changes they made, and trying to go more maybe like electronic in a way where they do some different things with his voice, and do more like that radio sounding approach. I like that. I have always liked that. I've liked what they did even with that in Revolution Radio. I'd say they made a good choice with that. That is one of the best things I think about this album. The guitars and stuff like that, the solos that they do, and the creativity from song to song. I've talked about it before. They still all sound different. He still makes it so that each song does sound unique and is its own journey. I do appreciate that, and you really don't get that from early Green Day. Although Dookie is an amazing album, a lot of those songs sound exactly the same, especially when you take out the singles. If it's just not the songs that were the singles, they really all kind of sound exactly the same. And I had said that every album afterwards, Insomniac, kind of aside, Insomniac, a lot of those songs sound the exact same as well. Starting in Nimrod, he really does try and say, and even said when he was writing Nimrod, he tried to make each song sound unique. And I feel like he mastered that. He's figured out what that does, at least until the mistakes of Uno, Dos, and Tre, and he's applied it. So I think American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown are very good examples of songs sounding unique. So now we're going to go through every single song, again, very kind of briefly on this album, starting with Song of the Century. This is the opening song. This is the song that kind of, again, starts with that radio, like him out of the picture, and then he comes in singing, and then he pieces out. It's a very, very short song, and it's getting us ready. Basically, kind of a declaration of what this album is going to be about, and I think it's not really the song we all expected to be that first song. It's very, very different considering the first songs of a lot of the albums, and even if you just go back to the album before this, if you're first listening to this album, the first song on the album before was American Idiot on American Idiot, and now we get Song of the Century. So that is quite the change. That's quite the difference. But I do feel like just what it did, it's a very, very different approach. I do like it. And then we go right into 21st Century Breakdown, which is quite the energetic and fun song. I feel like the song is just really good. I don't think the song is like a masterpiece, but I feel like there's not a weak part. And it's a longer song, 5 minutes and 9 seconds. It's one of the longest songs on this album. This album doesn't have that long song on it like American Idiot does. This is the longest song along with 21 Guns, which is actually crazy when you think about it, but it's just because there's so many songs on this album. But I think 21st Century Breakdown is a phenomenal song. Then we go into Know Your Enemy, which again was the first single. Again, talking about the post-Bush era. Solid. It's catchy. It's obviously a song that they've run with. It's a song that's become very popular from them. It's a song that's been a holdover of 21st Century Breakdown, but it's a very solid song. I don't think it's not necessarily the most creative. The simplicity, it's really only like 4, 5, 6 chords max. It's the same kind of drum the whole time. The solo it's a cool solo, but it's pretty simple overall. Like nothing about this song is very fancy, I would say. And does that hold it back? A little bit, and they do start to show that, especially like in Uno, Dos, and Tre. There are some simplistic songs, and sometimes you have to be careful with those kind of songs because sometimes they can be too kind of like nice, too trying to go mainstream. And I don't think the song does it, but it's kind of a step in that direction. And then we have Viva La Gloria, which I really, really like. The song is a very, very good song. Obviously a very, very different song. I'm going with the piano and having basically 2/3 of the song, I'd say, just be piano. I think it does a really, really fantastic job. And I like that it goes Viva La Gloria, Little Girl, too, later on at number 12 on this album. So I like that they kind of come back to things that they do in the beginning. Just like American Eulogy is also a lot like Song of the Century, basically starts with a Song of the Century. So I really do like that they kind of play around with those. And they do that again in American Idiot with Forever Now and Somewhere Now. They do the same kind of thing. So I really do like that. But For the Lobotomy is next. And this is a really good song. I do think having it be kind of the, he's playing chords in the beginning, but he's playing the single notes of those chords. Really fun song. Really awesome song. His voice is really good. The solo and like everything about this song is a very, very solid song. It doesn't really get looked at as one of the better songs on this album, but I think it honestly is. Then we have Christian's Inferno, which I think a lot of people, especially back then, had some problems with it. And this is all obviously part of the Heroes and Cons section. This is Act 1, ending with Last Night on Earth. Christian's Inferno is a solid song. I actually like Christian's Inferno. I know when this song came out, or when the album came out, there were some people that said, like, this, when you're listening to it, this is the first song that sticks out as, like, I'm not into it. And I think just the way this song is, being a little bit more aggressive, kind of just being a different style altogether, I get it. I get why it's kind of off-putting. I get why people may not like the song. I personally do like it. I think it's different for what they've been doing up until this point on this album. I respect it for that reason. I don't think it's the best song on this album. I do think, would I put it in like the bottom third of quality songs? Yeah. But again, the drop in quality, the drop in how much I like these songs, it really doesn't drop all that much. So the difference between like an elite song, like let's say 21st Century Breakdown or even Before Lobotomy, or even songs that we'll get later on, The Static Age, See the Light, American Eulogy, I love all those songs. There's not that much of a drop between it. Then we have Last Night on Earth. This is a very, very solid song. Last Night on Earth, Viva La Gloria, Restless Heart Syndrome, they have those experimental parts of experimenting. By what I mean is like experimenting between kind of quiet and more peaceful. Again, kind of resting more on the piano and resting on his voice to drive the song forward, and playing around with if they're just going to keep that the whole song. Some of the songs do that, or if they're going to kind of like at the very end change it up entirely and add some very, change the tone and change the tempo entirely, which they do. This is a solid song. Again, is it the greatest song in the world? No, but considering the meaning of the album, considering the meaning of the song, and considering that it's the end of this first act, you do get that sense. You do get the sense that it's closing out what we had just gotten, and then we go to East Jesus Nowhere next, and it kind of starts anew in a way. And this is an Act 2, East Jesus Nowhere, Peacemaker, Last of the American Girls, Murder City. I mean, they do a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of different things that go on in this act that I can really appreciate. East Jesus Nowhere is that kind of rock song, a song that you can see like that American Idiot kind of vibe to, along with even 21st Century Breakdown, Know Your Enemy. It's got that kind of vibe. Very, very fun song. Again, a song that's stuck with them since then. It's a song that people recognize from them. It was one of the more popular songs on this album. Very, very good. I do really, really love this song. I think the song is very fun to listen to. I think it's a very good song. And then we have Peacemaker, which is a very different kind of song in terms of the drums. The guitar is just kind of one kind of tone, like it's one kind of beat the whole time. But I like it because it's all different. This song is a very, very different. This song is, I feel like, the most different, at least up until this point of the album, and I can respect it for that. Last of the American Girls, written about his wife, which is really, really cool. I like this song a lot. I like the emphasis on the bass. The bass actually gets quite a good amount of time on this song, but it's just really good. It's not overly fast. Again, it's not like overly flashy. It's playing with that more simplicity thing, but I think it does it a lot better than Know Your Enemy. I would always say The Last of the American Girls is better than Know Your Enemy. And then we have Murder City, which kind of goes right into it. And Murder City is a very, very fantastic song. I really do like it. Love the drums, very fast tempo. Love his voice. Love the vocals in the song. I think it's really, really good. Everything nails it, I believe, in the song. The vocals, the guitar, the drums, overall, they just do a really, really good job. And then Viva La Gloria, again, Little Girl. Same kind of beat as Viva La Gloria, but they changed things up. It's a little bit longer. It's like 17 seconds longer, but I like this a lot. I don't necessarily know which... I won't say that. I like Viva La Gloria, just the bass song, number 4 on this album. I like it a lot better than this. I think this one, again, tries to play the whole... Let's take it a little smoother. Let's take it a little, more like steady, and then let's kind of, elevate the tempo of it a bit. And they do that for the chorus and verse. And I do like that. It's a way that makes it sound unique. It's a way to make it sound different when they basically have two very tonally different songs in one. And the chorus is one thing, and the verse is the other. I can respect that. I think this is a very solid song. I just feel like in this act, it is one of the weaker songs, and so is Restless Heart Syndrome. I don't think it's a bad song. This is probably the weakest song, in my opinion, on this album. Again, like, I like the slow and then kind of having that cool guitar thing at the end. I like that. But at the end of the day, does it do what these other songs does? Not necessarily. I think overall it's a very solid song, but maybe just not up to snuff like the other songs. And then these last couple, we'll go through them very, very fast. Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Fast tempo, very much in your face, an in your face song that I very much respect. On the Edge, they swear a lot in the song, but it's a very, for what it is, it's a very good song. It's a very, very different song. The Static Age, underrated. This is, I think, in my personal opinion, my favorite song on this album. I think the best songs, honestly, are in this group. Static Age, American Eulogy, we can skip to that really fast. I love the song. Again, it's not necessarily one of the longer songs, but it feels long overall. And I love it. I really do love American Eulogy. 21 Guns, this is their biggest song, I think, post-American Idiot. From 21st Century Breakdown onward, 21 Guns is the best. They got a lot of flack for it, for what the song meant to them and why they wrote it and what people kind of relate to it. They did get a lot of flack with it. It is kind of that more pop rock kind of song, a song that is very easy pop rock-like, but a song that I really do love. I love the vocals. The guitar is good enough to solo. I mean, it's the new age Green Day, okay? And you can either like them or not like them. And this, I really think, is where they got that feel or that look as being that kind of band, as being that pop kind of band, the more catchy kind of stuff, the more kind of easy to listen to music. This, I feel like, is where they started, and one of the biggest reasons why it started here was 21 Guns, was the major success of that song on this album, and then people kind of looked at it and said, Green Day has really changed, and they did. The difference between American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown is pretty darn big, but it's one that I accept, and I think you have have to accept in order to keep listening to them, because they really haven't changed back. Revolution Radio, in my opinion, does remind me a lot of 21st Century Breakdown. I think it's the best album since 21st Century Breakdown. I don't necessarily think it's as good, but I think it's close to it. And that's kind of just the era we're in. And then See the Light was the final song on this album. Very, very solid. I like this as a closing song to the album. I think it's fun. I think it's catchy. I think it's energetic. It kind of, again, encapsulates all of what we saw in 21st Century Breakdown. I think it's a nice wrap up. Again, starting it basically and starting American Eulogy with Song of the Century, like kind of connecting back to the beginning of the album at the end of the album, I think is really, really smart. I think it's really fun to do that, and I like it quite a bit. So guys, that is my opinion on 21st Century Breakdown. That's my review. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this album, and let me know what you guys think of any Green Day album in general. Next up is going to be Uno. We'll do Uno, Dos, and Tre individually, every kind of other week, every third week, and then eventually, we'll start talking about, I want to talk about Green Day related topics, kind of waiting on that until they start talking about their new album in general. But again, maybe by the time this video is up, that has already happened. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video.